Scarlet Everose here. Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're exploring one of horror's most iconic figures, Pennywise the Dancing Clown. This isn't just a scary villain. It's a force that embodies fear itself, manipulation, and the darkness lurking within human perception. Before we sink into the terror, thank you all so much for the endless support, comments, and the love on this series. Your engagement fuels every episode, and I'm deeply grateful. Yes, so before we dive in, you guys, I really want to say thank you for sticking with me from day one. I have tons of fun doing this. I love exploring. I love analyzing characters for my favorite shows, movies. And, I was like, you know what? I know it's not Halloween and everything, but who cares? I love horror, and, Pennywise has been one of my, most loved, horror icons. I love every horror icon, but Pennywise to me is like my go-to horror icon. And since I'm currently reading the book, it's good. It's really good. I love the story. It's completely different from the movies, and a little bit of the new TV show that came out last year of Welcome to Derry. Very different, but I love it. I think I'm becoming a Stephen King book girly, and I'm thinking of probably talking about these characters maybe by Stephen King or whatever I find interesting. And thank you all so much for being here today. I'm really excited to dive in. If you guys want to follow me on all my socials, my socials are down in the description below, but I'm truly excited to talk about this. And if you guys want a part 2 about this, because, since I'm you would say a Pennywise, and sure, maybe a fanatic, but I feel like I'm qualified to talk about him because I have the movies, I have the book that I'm reading, which I have more knowledge now of how Pennywise really is, and on how he, and how this character psychologically, even though I'm not a psychologist, but I might get a degree later on by this, on how this character, on how we can perceive this character as, and everything else. And if you guys have any questions or any comments that you want to make, please let me know about this character. If you guys want to correct me about something about that I missed, please let me know as well. Alright, let's dive in. Segment 1. The Origin of Fear. Pennywise isn't just a clown. It's an ancient entity feeding on fear. So in It's Welcome to Derry, they do an origin episode on how it, or Pennywise, takes, where it came from, and basically the entity is also called the Deadlights, and it's these glowing things that float in the air called the Deadlights. And when you see the Deadlights, it basically it either wipes your mind or you go chronically insane. And that's why the iconic line of Pennywise is "You'll float too," or "You'll float." The reason why is because basically when he puts the deadlights on you, basically your end is there, or you're basically chronically insane. Basically, if I could describe it somehow from what I personally saw, it's like basically looking into hell, and basically you're hearing screams, and basically it's tortured souls that basically. So basically, when Pennywise eats you, yes, in the series and in the movies, 2017 version at least, they do show him like eating people and stuff like that, but it's mostly a symbolic for mostly eating just the soul of you, basically, more than like skin and bones, even though it does show that too. So his natural form is impossible for humans to comprehend. So he takes shapes to terrify his victims, often appearing as a clown 99% of the time, but sometimes as other horrific forms, even loved ones. He's been haunting Derry for centuries on feeding children and the fear of the town. Opposite, real quick as a fun fact, to Pennywise is Mandarin, the giant cosmic turtle, or the turtle. Mandarin represents life, creation, and balance, basically serving as the cosmic opposite of it. He also acts kind of a guardian and guide, particularly for the Losers Club, helping them understand its true nature and giving them the wisdom they need to confront him. So basically, Mandarin is a turtle that basically, if I could reference a little bit in religion, it's kind of like if Mandarin in some type of way is like God and Pennywise is like the devil, if I can put it in somewhere like that. Mandarin, or the turtle, protects Derry and everything like that, while the opposite of Pennywise, he likes to he manipulates the environment, but he can't go as far, because Mandarin, the turtle, is way more powerful than he is. Segment 2, manipulation and psychological terror. Pennywise's true form isn't physical. He uses illusions and deceptions, how he exploits memories, regrets, and guilt. Why even humans are not immune. Fear becoming a living, breathing entity in the present. So since Pennywise's form usually takes form of the Deadlights, but he takes form of a clown. But I think I am going to talk a little bit about the Losers Club. So the Losers Club is one called the main leader, which is Bill Denbrough, Richie Tozier, Mike Hanlon, Beverly Marsh, Eddie Cashbrack, and Stanley Uris. So basically, in the Losers Club, Bill is the older brother, the leader. Is determined to find out what happened to Georgie, why are the missing kids going missing, and all of them have different fears. Pennywise uses Georgie, since Bill and Georgie were really close. He uses his little brother to guilt him into not being protective enough of Georgie, or being, aware of what happened to him. For example, Richie Tozier is, his fear is, he says he fears clowns, but in the book he fears werewolves, technically, but his also fears, being who he really is, people finding out of, who he is as a person. And Mike Hanlon, it's racism for him, and basically people of the black spot, which in the book, I don't know why, well, it kind of makes sense, but Mike Hanlon, gets, discriminated a lot for who he is as a black person. Eddie Cashbrack has a mom that's very, very controlling. She has this illness called, I'll put it on the screen. I can. Something on peroxide or something. That she thinks that Eddie Kaufbreck is sick, and he's basically not. And basically, Pennywise uses a leper for Eddie's fear and diseases, and he's a germaphobe and everything else. Beverly Marsh is the only girl in the Losers Club, and she gets, she's called many things I cannot say on YouTube, but she gets referred as a person, a lady of the night. I'm gonna call it that way, because people assume that she's like that, promiscuous and everything else, but she's not. She mostly fears her father, because her father's really controlling of her. He acts really weird towards her. And Stanley Uris is, has a fear of this lady, thing, but I don't remember what he fears in the book. I think also discrimination of who he is as a Jew, and he gets discriminated, but I think in the movie, in 2017, I think it's mostly, a lady painting, and every fear Pennywise exploits very, very often, and that's why it also says that he also uses loved ones as reference to put more fear into those characters. But anyway, they go back to Derry as adults to defeat Pennywise once again, because all of them go out, to do their own thing. Mike Hanlon is the only one that stays in Derry and calls them back, because they do a blood oath as kids, and they say to promise if Pennywise or it comes back that they're gonna defeat him again. And he exploits a lot of, not just the Losers Club, he exploits every person he can find. And, it's interesting. The reason I can go into detail, but I won't, because there's a lot of things that are very controversial, and I don't want to get demonetized, but yeah, so Pennywise uses a lot of fear and things. He can not just change into just a clown. He can change into a chair. If people have a fear of a chair with teeth or something, he'll use that as reference. So he exploits a lot. Memories, guilt, you name it. Why adults are not immune? Because going to what I said in segment 1 with a Welcome to Derry. When you're a child, you believe a lot more things. But when you're an adult, you don't believe a lot more things. And the reason why the adults don't listen to the kids is because that's how Pennywise wants it. Since he can control the environment, control the town and how they think, he can erase people's memories once they probably either defeat him or he doesn't want them to remember at all. For example, going back to one of the Losers Club's mom, March Tozier. She has no idea that she's gonna have a son in the future, but she does. And what's kind of funny is that Pennywise has hatred for all kids, okay? But he has the most hatred for Richie Tozier, because Richie Tozier he can be a smart ass and a smart mouth. So even though in the book he has fears of werewolves and stuff, but there's another thing he also fears during that time. And he Pennywise doesn't like Richie, so he's trying to get rid of the mom so Richie isn't born, but that doesn't happen. And I also forgot to reference this, Pennywise does know that he's gonna die in the future. So like I said, he's omnipresent, he knows he's gonna die. But the thing about Pennywise is that he has this huge ego where he thinks he's gonna make it, but he's so unserious as well. So, because he's a clown, so he takes the clown persona to a level 20, if that's an example, and thinks he was gonna win when he gets defeated by friendship and the turtle secretly referencing it. And yeah, but he does not like Richie Tozier. Out of all of them, he does not like Richie Tozier. Because Richie Tozier is a smartass, and he's the one that mostly says what people either fear to think, or he doesn't know. He can't hold his mouth back. He really can. So, the most iconic, like, from the book slash the movies that he takes form of a werewolf, at least in the 90s version. He doesn't take form of the 2017 version, but he takes form of mummies, werewolves, Beverly's dad, Ingrid Marsh, and so many other illusions. But mostly those are that. But mostly the clown persona will always be the one that it takes its form. Segment 3. Iconic encounters. Every appearance of Pennywise is a sitting in terror. Okay, so the losers confront... So, Bill in the book and in the movie, Bill has a stuttering problem. In the book they call him either Big Bill or Stuttering Bill. And in order for Bill to kind of confront his stuttering, he says this line all the time that the man, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the man that thrusts in the post, he sees the ghost or something like that. I might be wrong, but I'm probably going to put it down in text so you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyway, so one of the losers clubs, once they confront their fear, Bill is the older one, that realizes how Pennywise works. So when you stop fearing him, or stop fearing what you fear, the weak Pennywise gets. And, there's this time where at least in the movie, and Pennywise did this on purpose, by the way, he makes the Losers Club go to this house, which is called the Nebold Street, or the Nebold House. It's this very, very old house, dark house. And, Pennywise starts messing with the Losers Club. But Bill is the first one to kind of realize how Pennywise works. So when you fear Pennywise, that gives him the most power. When you start not believing in your fear and start thinking, oh, it's not real, that's the most thing that Pennywise gets weakened. But in the book, which is kind of confusing a little bit, I'm gonna lie, there's these silver coins that in the book and in the 90s series, they shoot at Pennywise, and that's what makes him weak. And the 2017 version, a little bit of 2019, in chapter 2, they start yelling at Pennywise that thinks that he's not real. Which, to be honest, I think the most accurate from the book and from the 90s series, which would be the Tim Curry one, and the book series, which is the silver with the one with the silver coins. Because they have this thing with, I think it's the turtle. That's my assumption. And, that's how they mostly defeat it. Spoilers ahead. But in the movie, they start yelling that he's not real, which I found out that doesn't really technically work. You can't just yell out your fear towards Pennywise. That doesn't work. You have to be prepared. You have to be, I think, I might be wrong, but I think in the 2017 version, Bill brings oh my gosh, what's it called? I'm just gonna call it a pistol of some sort, I think from his dad, and they show, I think they do shoot or was it a bullet? I don't remember what it was. I think it was a bullet, which doesn't work, but technically how to actually defeat Pennywise is not that you yell at him of what you don't fear. It's basically throwing these silver things that are covered in the turtle's grace that defeats Pennywise. But like I said, I'm still in the book. If I do talk more about Pennywise, which I'll probably do, I'll tell you how they actually defeat him in the book. Because like I said, I haven't watched the 90s miniseries. I'll probably have to start watching that to see if it references a lot of things in the book. But yeah, but technically these are the silver things that basically are like Mandarin's, the turtle's way of defeating him. Because they basically, even without the turtle even being there, the turtle is protecting them and stuff. Why courage is its ultimate weakness. So basically when you start coming together, like the Losers Club, Pennywise is just one entity. And it can't. If you have multiple people with you, he cannot defeat all of you if you're beating the crap out of him. But at least that's what they did in it, chapter 1. Segment 4. Final thoughts plus what's next. What Pennywise teaches us. Fear can be weaponized and overcome. Courage and unity triumph over manipulation. Horror reflects the human experience as much as it terrifies. So, going back to what I said in segment 3, whatever you fear, you guys, I promise you, depending on how strong you are mentally, you can overcome things. You know, every one of us has a Pennywise that we fear. You know, I used to say I used to fear clowns, right? But that's why Pennywise became one of my most favorite horror icons. Because instead of me fearing Pennywise, I love Pennywise. I'm not afraid of him anymore. Or clowns in general. I can, maybe back then when I was younger, I used to be terrified of going into a circus. Now, I would love to go see one in person or go to an amusement park to see one. You know, it all takes about, for one, what you fear the most. And what you understand about yourself. Because the reason I love horror is because it shows what you can overcome and what you fear. For example, going back to what I said, I love horror. I will always love horror. I've been a horror fan since I was probably, 10 years old, probably. And look, I will admit this. I am a bit of a scaredy cat at first when I watch a series. I will watch it with my hands over my eyes, but I will peek through. But I will still watch it. And once I watch it and rewatch it and watch it over and over and over again, the fear stops. That's how I consider myself as a horror fan. You know, it's all about how you face your fear and how you overcome it. For example, Like, for example, not to shove religion or anything, for example, I believe in God. And when I put that in God's hands, and stuff, I overcome it that way. But however you, the audience, or my loves, fear can be overcome if you allow yourself and tell your brain that it's okay, that you'll make it, that everything will go back into place. There's this thing that in the It Welcome Theory that Ingrid Marsh says all over and over again. She says, what happens in dairy, people don't really die in dairy. And it makes you think, it makes you say, so where do the people actually go? We don't really know. I'm reading the book right now and I'm probably gonna find out somehow. Or maybe I have to go into another Stephen King, because everything's connected with it. For example, people say that Pennywise does come back, other people say he doesn't, but I have a feeling he does. Because the thing about it is that once new people come back, I feel like, and Pennywise goes into these hibernation of every 27 years, he comes back to eat, sleep, and again. Eat, terrorize, sleep, again. Which, now thinking about it, sounds like a pretty good deal. If you can get paid for that, trust me, everyone would be billionaires by now. I'm kidding. But anyway, going back to what I actually was saying is that as long as you don't let fear hold you back, there's nothing that will stop you from doing that. Alright, you guys, thank you so much. I hope I made a lot of sense, even though I love it and stuff. It can be very confusing, but I feel like I made sense. But thank you all so much for watching. If you guys want to follow me, my socials are down in the description below. And Pennywise isn't just a villain. It's a psychological study in terror. And if you guys want, I'll probably go back to anime and a little bit of Hunter x Hunter. Please let me know what character you guys want to see next, or what other horror character you guys want to see next. Alright, per usual, love you all. Bye!